Hey everybody, this is Keith Gleason, host of Indie Comics Relay, creator of the Mighty Mascots, and promoter of the Plastic City Comic Con. I decided I had a couple ideas for videos, and this was one of the ones that people were kind of interested in, starting your own Comic Con. I know when I decided, so yeah, I'll paint a picture for you. So back in about 2014, 2015, me and my wife, we were, going to a lot of Comic Cons and shows setting up. I've been doing shows for probably about 15, 20 years now, get going on that anyways. And we were doing great because Comic Cons were still building up, from like the 90s up to about 2012. They started hitting at new levels of excitement, and you've seen a lot of people show up at shows and things like that. I kind of chart the course of the success of Comic Cons from like the first Avengers movie. That was kind of when superhero movies started blowing up even more, bigger than they were always popular, but the Avengers movie was like an event, if you remember when that first one came out, and it was doing like gangbuster money and things like that. And we started seeing a lot of people going to shows, and we at the time we were making tons of money. And then right around about 2015 or so, we were setting up at a lot of major shows like in Boston, and Rhode Island, and Connecticut. There was like tons of big shows and everything. And the trend I started seeing at the time was, they were bringing in tons of celebrities, tons of cosplay. And, nothing's wrong with all that stuff. It's just that, comic books and creators and artists and writers and, everything to do with comic books in some form was kind of pushed to the back burner, like we were, people weren't interested in that. And it seemed like a lot of the new fans coming into going to these shows weren't really comic readers, could care less about it. They were in there for like Funko Pops and celebrity autographs and things like that. So we started seeing a dip in our sales. And it got to the point where a lot of my artist friends, a lot of our friends from different shows over the years, everyone was feeling it. And at the time I was like, geez, what can we do? Like I talked to Amy about, like maybe we could start our own show, go back to my vision at the time was wanting to go back to 90s, like the 90s style Comic Cons where you go in, it was like usually a hotel room or, an old wedding hall or something. And, there was always a guy at the admissions with the cigar box, full of money. And, it was always like $5 to get in. Maybe the kids are free. And, you go in and it was just comics, and it was just comics, artists, writers, indie people, things like that. And you basically walked around for a couple hours, and then did some shopping, spent your weekly allowance or whatever you had at the time. And, just went home after, dug through 50-cent boxes, things like that. So that's the kind of show I wanted to do and get back to. The other thing that I was crazy about Comic Cons around that time too, and still going nuts, is like the admission prices were going through the roof. Like for example, the Boston shows we were going to at the time, people were paying like anywhere from 25 to $50 to get in. And you think about a family of four, and how much money that is. And then if they were there to meet, let's say like William Shatner, and his autograph is about $100. It's like, when you add up all that money, it's like, is there anything left for artists, or even, after they have food and everything else? So that's where a lot of the issues were for me. It's like, people, and there was too many shows. So it's still the case. There's a lot of shows. So, you think about that throughout the year. It's like, it's like comics are to readers right now. It's like they try to get every little last cent out of you, and no one's thinking, in the way to try to, maximize profits and, not 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 rip off people, things like that. Just wanting to put on a good show, reasonably priced, and have people discover new creators and new artists and whatever, like even if they're there for Funkos, who cares? It's like that's what I wanted. That was my driving factor to start a Comic-Con back in 2015. So the first thing I had to do, and I think this is great advice for anybody thinking about doing a show, is figure out what kind of con you want to put on. It might not be, your interest in doing a convention may not be comic books. Maybe you're a gamer. Maybe you're, want to start a video game con. Maybe you want to do Magic the Gathering and just have tournaments. Maybe you want to do a celebrity con, a big one like that. I think the first thing you got to figure out is what kind of show you want to do. Once you have that figured out, then you could start building it. So I jotted down some notes. One thing I would suggest highly, if you're going to start a convention, do not come out of the gate doing 3-day weekend show. We're going to have top talent, things like that. That's going to ruin you. There's so many shows that have come and gone within 1 year, because they come out of the gate swinging, but then they don't do everything they need to do to make sure people actually show up at the show, like promoting it. Promoter is in your title, so you have to get the word out. You can't rely on the people vending at your show to do that. So that's one thing I would say is, if you're going to start a show, start small, do a 1-day show, and then build it. Because you're going to lose your shirt if you try to go first year, unless you got a ton of money, and you can afford to lose. I mean, there's certainly been shows like that start up immediately, like 3-day show, and you could tell that they were in the hole probably about 3 or 4 years before they started making money, and I don't recommend doing that unless you have limited, a lot of resources to make that happen. I would say start small with a 1-day show and get one great guest, have them come in. The thing with doing 1-day shows that you might find tough is flying people. People may not want to go in for a 1-day show, flying in and, flying out for 1 day. If you're going to get a great guest, I would try to look for somebody close by within your state, or the next state over, somewhere you can drive there or something like that. Or you don't even need a big guest for the first year if you don't want to do it. Just put a show on and see how it goes, and then you can kind of build from there. Then maybe after a couple 1-day shows, build up to 2 days, and then, go to 3 days. That would be my advice. We're still a 1-day show. I've put on, let me see, about 4 conventions at this point. We had to close the last 2 off because of COVID, but I started off the show with a vision that like I said in the beginning there, I wanted a 90s type show. 1-day shows are my favorite as a creator and a vendor. I love to come in, there's no BSing over the 3 days, because usually with 3 days shows, what the sales do is they all get broken up because, a lot of the attendees will get 3-day passes. So, for 3 days, they kind of walk around, go to panels, things like that. And then they tend to buy on the 3rd day, and then you get sales on Friday and Saturday from people that are maybe there for just 1 day, but the bulk of your business will come on a Sunday. So That's why I love one day shows. People come in, they have to buy that day, and then they leave, and then you leave, and you go home, and that's it. It's done. So my vision was always to do a one day show. Over the years, the last four conventions, I've thought about going to 2 day, and whenever I thought to do that, I thought back to my original vision. It's like, let's keep this is working at what I wanted. One day show, cheap for people, cheap for vendors, and everybody's you know getting a lot of success from it. So when those times where I thought to do 2 day shows, I'm like, nope, let's nip that in the butt. Let's go back. We're going to do one day. And so I've kept it one day, and I'm hope to keep it one day show going forward. So that was the one thing. So plan your show. um think about what kind of show you want to put on, and keep it small, because like I said, you want to build up, you want to see if you have an audience in the area that you're going to do the convention. um, the next thing I would say you need to do just at the beginning stage is get your website, get a website domain, buy the domain, get that together before you make any kind of announcement that you're doing a show. I don't want to name names, but there's certain awful promoters that you'll run into. And if you become a promoter, there's going to be a lot of promoters around you. And I don't know if this is everywhere, but in the New England area, it's brutal up here. There's some good guys that do shows around here, and there's some really awful people that do shows around here. I've heard stories of people making, just starting out for their first year, want to make a nice show for the community, and they make the announcement ahead of time, and one of these awful promoters will go out and buy the domain name, from the person, so that they can't get their website domain. It's cutthroat there. And then you get a lot of promoters that, like, well, if this guy's going to do this show, he can't do, you can't do my show, and things. It's like, they should do a reality show on just comic book promoting. There would be an audience for it if you like crazy drama. So any producers out there, hit me up. So but yeah, so I would say that's the next step. If you're gonna do a show, get all your aces in a row, before you even make a public announcement. Try to find a perfect date for your show. Then buy the website domain. Make sure you have that. And decide if you're going to sell tickets online or if you're just going to sell them at the door. See, our shows, since it's one day, our admission is pretty low. We tend to not do online sales, ahead of time. We end up just doing it all at the door, which has been working for us. But I don't know, maybe going down the road, we may do pre-sale tickets online and have somebody kind of print it out and take a copy of it to the show or whatever. But then it's like, you have to hit people with fees and things like that. So I don't know if, I'm going to do that or not, but yeah, that's all kind of stuff you want to look at. And then also, I'll talk a little bit about our first year, and I'm going to actually show a video too that was recorded from the local newspaper that I was able to find, that showed our first year. And there's some superstars in there like Frankie B. Washington and a few other people. But our first year, what I had ended up doing was I was pretty ballsy. I did free admission. And I don't know if any show does that, but I was able to get I rented out a veterans center in Leominster, and they had an upstairs and a downstairs, and they also had a bunch of tables that they had there. Plus, we had to rent some tables, but it was a couple. Let's say it was under. I think it was under $500 to rent the hall, and then we had to rent tables, so that was probably another 500 or so, and we had the upstairs and downstairs, and we were able to fill about 40 40 to 50 tables between both floors. And, you know, just a solid small show. And then the free admission, me and Amy, we advertised the crap out of it, and we got a lot of people. The thing that stunk about the first year is I was not able to, I didn't have any kind of tickets in place since it was free admission. So we were unable to capture the amount of people we had. My guesstimate was at least 1,000 went through that place that day, which, you know, was crazy. The amount of people, it was always busy, like from 10 a.m. to right to the end at 6, you know. But yeah, so that was our first year, and then it was like a crazy success. The next day I was reading the articles in the newspaper about it, like the local paper. There was a really cute moment with a kid who there's a great cosplayer in this area called Matches Malone, who does an unbelievable Batman. You guys probably know him. But a kid that went to the show drew this beautiful picture of Batman and wanted to give it to Matches. And it, you know, reading all these articles, I got choked up the next day. I was like a tear in my eye, and I was like, you know, it's like, I can't believe the mayor showed up, and, you know, all this stuff. It was really, really neat, you know. But yeah, I wanted to show a little bit. Well, first, here's our website list that I put together. I still have to take down the COVID notification. You know, we've had to cancel the last 2 years. The good thing is that because me and my wife do this as a side hustle, so to speak, we weren't affected too much by having to cancel for 2 years, you know, because none of our income's tied into it, which is great, you know. But we are going to take a little hit on next year because we printed out a lot of flyers and things like that we had to throw away. So I'm going to have to reprint that. So we'll take a little hit there, but not as bad as it could be, you know, so that's great. So, but this is our basic website, you know. You look down. The other thing we're going to have to bump up our admission. We would usually do $5 for adults. Now we're going to do 10, and kids 12 and under are free. And there's free parking, which those are both huge things for people, you know, especially families. So say 2 adults come, it's going to just cost them $20 to get in. The kids can come in for free, and they don't have to worry about parking and paying a parking fee, which you usually have to do in bigger cities, you know. Here's a picture of our, you know, we've had to move from a small veteran center now to an actual hockey rink, which is what we use for the convention now. But yeah, this is just, you know, this is our basic website, and we got the domain Plastic City Comic Con. You know, I don't think I have much else here. The floor map's not ready. The exhibitor, you know, we're taking registration now. If anybody's, you know, in the Massachusetts area that would like to sign up for the show. If you're not comic related, though, don't bother, because we do not take vendors that aren't comics or artists or, you know, things like that. We curate this show, so. And we try to keep it pure comics, like a 90s show. So if you're selling vinyl siding or energy drinks, you know, you got to go to the bigger shows for that. Us, we just want comics, artists, writers, crafters, things like that. But yeah, here's some of the slideshows. This is from the more recent shows, though. And, you know, we got news, we got all kinds of videos and reviews, our policies, of course. And then there's my comic book, Mighty Mascots, that I can use since it's my property, you know. So, but I wanted to show this video here. This is my Twitter. This is a video from the first year. I wish I had the sense to take more video and photos and things like that. But let's take a look at this video, and I didn't put the audio on because it's mostly just crowds talking and things like that. But I'll tell you some of the things going on here. So let's take a look here. All right. So this Vermont, this is Frankie B. Washington. You know, some cosplayers, you know. But this video just takes a bunch of different little things happening at the show, which is amazing, you know. there's matches. This is matches who I was talking about. Does the best Batman. Another cosplayer. But as you can see, it was pretty busy that day. This is a small vet center. It's really nuts. So, but I was going to say, this is Julie. She's a makeup artist who's actually doing really well in the Boston movie making scene. She's just awesome girl. We met her at a Rock and Shock, which is a horror convention a couple of years ago. And she works a lot with my buddy, John, who is Roy Thomas's manager. And she was able to come to the show, and she makes up kids, paints their faces, things like that. I don't think she has time for it anymore because she's so busy working on like real movies, So, and as you can see in the background, there's like all kinds of veteran pictures, and the cosplayers just hanging out, which is, a lot of fun. There's Mitch from Terrificon, HB Comics, and look at it, just all people going through boxes. This is exactly what I wanted from a show, This is Andy Fish. He's another great artist and writer. Kids dressing up as, Black Panther, and, being the first time at a show too, some of them are saying in this video, which is really, really cool. And then back here, you can see my booth with my friend Beth and Amy, my wife, watching the booth and selling our stuff. You can see the Mighty Mascots cereal box right there, But yeah, no, that's pretty much it. It was such a fun video to look at. But that was my first year, which, like a lot of people tell me that do conventions that they lose money on their first year. So it's, we didn't experience that, because I think, if I broke down everything we did and all the costs, we probably lost a little bit of money, but we set up at the show that day and we made a ton of money just selling my books and products from the convention, from my series, Mighty Mascots, and my other comics. But yeah, we made a good chunk of cash that day. We covered most of the expenses with the table fees that the vendors paid and things like that. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, we did have a little bit of out of pocket, but I think if you figure, we probably lost money on the time, because we were constantly out promoting it, doing shows, putting signs everywhere, going to comic stores and putting just flyers, things like that. So, but I'm going to stop it here. I definitely want to do more of these videos, get more into the different aspects of running a show. If you're interested, also, like, subscribe, share the video, comment below if you have specific questions, and maybe I'll address them in the next video. But this one, I just wanted to highlight once again, figure out what kind of show you want to do. 2, start small if you can. Build your show. It's just like anything, building an audience, grabbing an audience. You start small and build it up. And then, you want to actually start planning a couple years ahead, because people pick dates a year ahead of time, and you kind of don't want to bump shoulders with other shows. So figure out when you want to do it. Stay away from major holidays, things like that. So, all right. So I will end this video now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking it out. The website's plasticcity.com, plasticcitycomiccon.com. I'm sorry. Go to the site. Our show is next July the 16th, 2022. We'll be back for our one-day show Saturday. And it's Wallace Civic Center in Fitchburg, Mass. There's still a handful of tables available if you're looking to vend at this show. But yeah, that's about it. So I'll talk to you guys soon, and have a great day and a great week. All right. Bye, everybody.